You could assume that Stephon Castle wasn't really under any sort of pressure to prove his worth as a rookie. The San Antonio Spurs selected him 4th overall in what was considered a weak draft class, and during the offseason, the Spurs even brought in veterans to round out the starting lineup alongside Victor Wembanyama. At the very least, Castle was expected to come off the bench, contribute on the defensive end, and adjust to the pace of the NBA by learning under Chris Paul. But it actually hasn't taken long for their rookie to check almost all the boxes you want to see from a player who's potentially gonna be the team's second star next to Wembanyama. Since being promoted into a starting role after Jeremy Sochan got hurt, Castle has been a huge revelation for San Antonio. Looking at it, in his first 7 games all coming off the bench, Castle has averaged just 6 points, more than 2 rebounds, and more than 3 assists, while shooting just 31% from the field and just 2 out of 16 from the 3-point line in under 20 minutes per contest. However, over his last 14 games with him in the starting lineup, Castle's numbers have jumped to more than 14 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 4.4 assists on less than 41% shooting from the field, while converting 23 out of his 73 attempts from behind the arc on almost 31 minutes per game. Well, obviously, his numbers were bound to increase with the added playing time, and his shooting percentages are still not that good, but the improvement in his raw numbers still show a massive leap, especially for a rookie guard. Also, the Spurs started the year with a 3-4 record, but the team has actually won 8 of their last 14 games since Castle was inserted in the starting lineup. Well, first of all, when looking for a potential second star who could play next to Wembanyama, specifically a guard, for sure you'd want a do-it-all type of perimeter defensive menace who could funnel ball handlers into Wembanyama's long arms, and Stephon Castle has done exactly that for San Antonio. As a whole, since Castle joined the Spurs starting lineup, that 5-man unit has allowed opponents to score just 99.4 points per 100 possessions, which is the second best defensive mark produced by any unit who has spent at least 50 minutes on the court this season. With Castle up top, with Wembanyama patrolling the paint and everyone else in between, the Spurs have managed to remain a top 12 defensive team this season even with the absence of Jeremy Sochan. But then, on the other hand, you'd also want a co-star who could provide complementary scoring, who's comfortable playing both on or off the ball, and who could ideally also take some late-game pressure off Wembanyama, and Castle also seems to check those boxes. Has been able to score in double digits in all but 2 of the games he's played since becoming a starter, plus Castle has also put up the most points for the Spurs during clutch situations so far this season, while also having the same number of shot attempts as Wembanyama when the score is within 5 points or less with less than 5 minutes remaining in games. Well, we still don't know what kind of monster Victor Wembanyama can become, but obviously, the Spurs need someone who can grow right alongside him and who can adapt to his evolution. So in this video, let's look into how Stephon Castle is becoming exactly that type of player for the San Antonio Spurs. So let's get to it. Stephon Castle is unusually versatile for a rookie guard. He can seamlessly alternate between spotting up, cutting to the basket, or playing a variety of on-ball roles for the Spurs, and his size for a guard at 6'5" plays a lot into his advantage. So far, more than 1/3 of Castle's shot attempts have come after he has muscled his way into the rim, and since entering the starting lineup, he's actually converted 66% of his more than 4 shot attempts per game within 3 feet of the basket. That is already a good percentage for a guard, but it's especially impressive for a first-year player, as no other rookie guard this season has even shot more than 58% at the rim on the same volume as Castle. Well, Castle doesn't necessarily have the quickest first step off the dribble, but give him a little bit of space out of ball screens or get him switched against lower defenders, and he'll be able to show some quick burst off hesitation and hang dribbles, which opens up driving lanes for him to get to the basket. And I especially love how he showcases his underrated bounce with some emphatic dunks. In this possession, you can see Castle defended by John Collins, but then the screen forces the quick switch to the slower Markkanen. Castle takes advantage and just blows by right into the lane and finishes with a 2-handed tomahawk slam. Then here, you can see Castle receiving the handoff from Wemby at the top of the key. Wemby's ball screen pins Terry Rozier a bit, and Adebayo can't close the gap in the paint with Wembanyama at the 3-point line. So Castle just uses that tiny dribble to split the pick and roll, and Jokic rotates too late to really challenge him as Castle finishes with a dunk. The fact that San Antonio drafted a guard who's able to attack the rim during those kinds of situations is immediately a huge win for a team who was the third worst in the NBA last season in terms of free throws attempted per game. Because of him routinely attacking the basket, among the Spurs roster, only Harrison Barnes has attempted more free throws than Stephon Castle since he joined the starting lineup. But while his rim attacks are loud, Castle's most underrated skill is much quieter. He knows how to get himself open without the ball in his hands, and as the season goes on, Coach Mitch Johnson has taken advantage of this by actually deploying him as the roll man in ball screen situations. Castle has taken advantage of the gravity that Wembanyama brings on the floor, leading to some easy finishes at the basket. Right here, the Spurs run a delay action that starts with Castle setting the high ball screen for Chris Paul. Now, even before the ball gets to Wemby's hands on the low block, you could see Castle already slipping past his defender as he easily scores off the bounce pass from Wembanyama. Then in this possession, Castle starts off by making the entry pass to Zach Collins on the high post. Castle fakes a ghost screen from Malachi Branham, the defense gets confused, and Castle slips to the paint at the right time as he gets the dish from Collins for another easy finish. Combine his rim attacking ability with his strong play in transition as well as his on-ball creation off the pick and roll, and the scoring has been better than expected for a rookie guard, although Stephon Castle is still definitely a point guard at heart. Well, he still obviously isn't on Chris Paul's level as a playmaker, but Castle's 3.7 assists per game average is actually the second most among all rookies so far, only behind Washington's Bob Carrington. Castle is constantly making advanced passing reads out of pick and rolls and has routinely taken advantage of the gaps in the defense with some tight pocket passes to the paint. Right here, you can see that Castle is guarded by a bigger Danny Avdija, but watch how he's able to break Portland's zone by initiating a post-up, and as the defense collapses, watch how he's able to identify the cutter at the last second as he makes the precise bounce pass to Harrison Barnes, who finishes right at the basket. Then right here, you can see Castle receiving the handoff from Zach Collins, and within a split second, he already sees Branham on the weak side with a potential cutting lane, so he just feeds him with a laser pass as Branham finishes with a floater. Those are some high-level passing reads we're witnessing from Castle, and as he gets more comfortable with the ball in his hands, we'll definitely see more of his playmaking creativity surface, whether it be as a primary ball handler or as a connector out of secondary actions. Although I think the most eye-opening part of Castle's offensive game so far has been his willingness to launch from the three-point line. In this possession, with less than 4 minutes remaining in the game with the score tied, with Wembanyama being hounded at the top of the key, he finds the trailing Stephon Castle, who confidently drains the wide-open three-pointer to give the Spurs the lead. That's a rookie who was actually branded as a non-shooter coming out of college, just casually stepping into a 30-foot bomb in the clutch. Well, again, his outside shooting percentage is still bad, but that's okay. I'm far more impressed with the volume, as Castle's attempting 7.6 three-pointers per 100 possessions so far this season. That's still on the low end for an NBA guard, but it's definitely far more than what most would have expected from a supposed-to-be non-shooter before the season started. Castle's shot doesn't look broken at all, and he hasn't been shy to take open looks when the defense gives them up. More importantly, the ability to launch from deep and to eventually create his own outside shot is going to be an important skill for someone who's viewed as a potential second scorer next to Wembanyama, and once Castle's outside shot starts to fall even just around mid-30%, I think given his athleticism and overall versatility, there could definitely be a world where he becomes an even better second option than Chris Middleton or Jamal Murray, if you would assume that Wembanyama eventually comes close to the level of Giannis or Nikola Jokic. But if Castle's shooting confidence has been a surprise for many, his reputation as a dog defender, which he was known for in college, has definitely lived up to the billing so far in the NBA. Well, any group with Wembanyama on the floor is expected to be devastating on the defensive end, but it's worth noting that even with Wemby on the bench, the Spurs' five-man unit of Castle, Chris Paul, Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes, and Zach Collins have still produced a 105.4 defensive rating, which ranks in the 88th percentile of the NBA within the span of time Stephon Castle has been in the starting lineup. Castle definitely does a lot on the defensive end for the Spurs with his quickness, physicality, and dog mentality. He is already an elite screen navigator who you would want to have in the perimeter with Wembanyama protecting the backline, but Castle also sometimes doubles as an undersized paint defender. In this possession, you can see Castle guarding Colin Sexton off the handoff play. The screen from Kessler forces the switch as Castle is dragged into the paint, with Kessler sealing him off down low. But as Sexton attacks, you can see Castle timing off his jump as he forces Sexton to lose the ball. Then right here, you can see SGA attacking in transition, and he's just too quick for Keldon Johnson, but you can also see Castle backpedaling ahead of them, using his verticality to get the clean block off Shea. Although I think it's worth noting that Castle's early success also puts the Spurs in such an interesting position. The team's current starting lineup and five-man unit of Wemby, Chris Paul, Castle, Barnes, and Champagnie has produced the sixth best offense in the league despite a small sample size together on the floor. However, that leaves other franchise cornerstones like Jeremy Sochan and Devin Vassell out of the picture. Vassell is a proven high-volume shooter and scorer, while Sochan also had a blistering start to the season before he got hurt. Both guys are also very young. Vassell just signed a huge extension, and Sochan will also be looking to sign one as soon as next offseason. And the thing is, choosing to keep one or both off the bench behind Castle or even Champagnie could be difficult for a lot of reasons. While it's hard to say what direction the Spurs will take in the long run, Castle might come off the bench again while playing a high minutes role with an expectation that he takes Chris Paul's starting spot next season. But so far, you could definitely already make a case for Castle remaining in the starting lineup for good. The Spurs are already solid and may well finish the season above 500, although I'm not sure that guarantees them a playoff spot in a tough Western Conference, which is fine because grabbing another rookie from a stacked 2025 draft class before Wembanyama and Castle are too good might not be a bad thing for the Spurs, as they are still definitely figuring out how to put the best pieces around Wembanyama. Plus, Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul won't be around when this team is really good to contend anyway. But regardless, if Stephon Castle remains a starter or plays 25 minutes per game off the bench, what we know for sure is that he is the closest thing to a second star that the Spurs have next to Wembanyama right now. But do you guys agree that the Spurs have already landed their second star in Stephon Castle? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this has been Rero Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.